Hello, and welcome everyone to Writer Day 2022. My name is Neveli, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Readline. With this event, the story goes back to 1980s, when Van Halen had added a statement of no brown M&Ms to the writer to make sure that it had been read. Unfortunately, an incident happened and their stage crashed on 30th of March. This is an event that we never want to see occurring again, and this is why Writer Day was created. To remember and emphasize the importance of clear communication and collaboration in the live industry. We're Readline, and our mission is to give live industry professionals easy, clear, and efficient communication around artist writers. Our team is a firm believer that you have to create change yourself. You have to contribute into making the industry a better place. On this note, to get inspired, we are taking you on a journey this evening or morning in US, and we have professionals from 6 different countries with us. So what we have planned for you today are 3 different panels. Firstly, live music industry rising from the ashes. We'll speak about the live music industry adjusting to the aftermath of high COVID waves. The second panel, Music to Move the World. We have Ukrainian musicians that will speak about the early stages of their career, and of course about the current situation and how we can support them. And third, we have post-COVID concert productions. So we have invited sound engineers to come and share their insights on live productions after COVID-19. Enjoy. We will be back and start in a few minutes with the first panel. See you then. So, hello everyone, and welcome to our first panel. So we have live music industry rising from the ashes. We have three amazing music industry professionals here from UK, Sweden, and Norway. And first up, I would like to introduce is Clara, a venue support manager at Music Venue Trust. She manages the emergency response service, which provides urgent support, guidance, and financial support to venues facing threats of closure. And she's also very well known to work with festivals such as Latitude, Reading and Leeds, Frank Turner's Lost Evenings Festival, and other grassroots music gigs and festivals around the country. Welcome, Clara.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
And next up, we have our amazing Sarah Herlin, who is the founder of Stockholm Music City. So on a mission to build a bridge, basically, between traditional music industry and startups. She has an enormous global network. She has worked before coming back to Sweden now in music industry in Asia, Middle East, UK, and that includes 7 years as head of international at EMI Virgin. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Hi.
And next up, we have Sten, working in industry already 20 years, educated at the National Academy of Fine Arts in Oslo, has worked as sound artist running a DIY label, and for the last 15 years, he's been working as the artistic programmer at Venue Blå in Oslo. The venue has been around since 1998 and is one of the leading venues in Northern Europe with a new and adventurous music. Welcome, Sten.
Thank you. Hello.
So in this panel, we are talking about levels of adjustment as well, and this is the whole event's name. And before we go back to the points of the future and the forward, I would actually like to ask you, when COVID crisis happened, and what were the phases that you went through? What did you feel at this moment, and where are you now with your feelings? Let's go first with Clara.
I think when it first hit in March 2020, probably like most people in the music industry, I think we thought it would be like a month long at max. And so although we could see the impacts of COVID quite quickly because there was a very sharp drop off on ticket attendance and people, we had sold out gigs where no one turned up basically. And so we saw the impact of it quite quickly. But I think in the first few weeks, we genuinely thought it would be similar to other pandemics and flus and things like we've had in the past. Quickly, that became apparent that wasn't going to be the case. And so we had to really act very quickly to mobilize our resources. And I think get a bit more serious about, okay, this is going to have a huge impact. This is probably actually the biggest threat to the live music industry I've ever seen. And so what are we going to do? And so we spent a lot of those first few months trying to kind of create relationships with government and funding bodies and local authorities and things like that, just to try and get our, finger on the pulse of what was happening and how we could communicate that to our venues. And then I think that as the months kind of progressed, it was just sort of a case of, okay, in some ways kind of business as usual for MVT. So we're a charity that looks after music venues. And so a lot of our resources we had built prior to the pandemic, but they became very useful during the pandemic. So I run the emergency response service. So that just, tripled in size during the crisis, and things like that, where we were already kind of communicating with government. So we did more of that. We did more of our outreach. So if anything, I always think that the kind of the crisis was sort of the testing of MVT's resources that we'd built prior to it. And thank God that we did, because otherwise it would have been a very different story, I think.
Definitely. I hope your crisis pool didn't run out completely and there is something still left and it's growing. Sarah, how about you? What were your first feelings and thoughts on it?
Very similar. to what Clara just said. I think it wasn't only in our industry, probably everybody in the world thought that this maybe a month or two, it was unimaginable. That was an enormous amount of time at the time. And now one sees it with a different perspective. And just as she said, that it was biggest threat, I guess, any of us have seen to the live industry or the industry as a whole, in our lives at least. And when it comes to the stages, since we work so much with such a large community, I think personally, I didn't even have time for what's happening, going through all these stages and then accepting. It was like jump quick to acceptance. What do we do? The way I normally react in any situation, and constantly advocate to everybody that the number one thing you need to be good at is quick change. And these days in general, pre-pandemic. And we have been operating that way since before the pandemic, since we, just as you were mentioning, our mission with Stockholm Music City, Nordic Music Tech, is bridging the gap between the traditional music industry and the tech startup world, the particular music tech. That there, a large part of what we were doing already was based on digital meets and digital events and presence in social media. So we would have about 4 to 6 own major events per year where we would meet up. So those, of course, instantly disappeared. And then the enormous part of our community in live was total panic. It actually became a bit of a swing where the ones who had the most to do suddenly had this incredible challenge and struggle, whereas what we did notice and can get back to more on is that the tech companies that had, several of them already had solutions that were suddenly very quickly understood beyond the industry.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of startups had that the timing was so correct. So it really, really pulled for them. Sten, anything to add?
Yeah, well, I'm coming from a more of a programmer perspective, but so it was it kind of even though like because everything was shutting down, like all the workload was like doubling or tripling, like became a force majeure expert overnight, and basically just cancelled and postponed. I don't know. It was probably 150 events in a couple of days there, and I was a bit less optimistic about the reopening and stuff. So I kind of like tried to just like just like deal with it and not like not trying to stress it, because everyone was trying to reopen within like 1 month or like they had like the hopes and ambitions for it. But I was a bit more pessimistic. I was thinking more towards like the fall and stuff, and then yeah, when the second wave and everything hit, and I just kept going. But in the meantime, of course, like we're privately run. We're not. We do get some fundings from the municipality and the state, but not enough to kind of like keep us open or keep everyone at work. So we kind of like immediately was put on a furlough, and so after that, I was. Me and some friends, we were getting bored, or we just like started doing these like Facebook Live streaming events, and then it ended up being one of the most followed pages in Norway, where we ended up doing or like artist organized kind of live from home events. So we did streaming from March till June in 2020, and I think we did like 350, 400 events. So it was basically sitting at home there during the lockdown and just like monitoring everything and doing 5, 6, 7 shows a day. So kept occupied, but yeah, it was basically just like thinking about other kinds of solutions of music.
That's a lot of events, I have to say. That's definitely a lot. That's would be that's like a premium way of adjusting to the situation, honestly.
In the UK as well, we did a thing. So at the beginning, we weren't sure that there'd be any funding from government. So we set up a page called Save Our Venues, where it was a bit like an aggregator. So all the venues who wanted to do live streaming for like crowdfunding and things like that, it would go on the page, and then a bit like a gig listing where you could just look, I like this venue and they're doing a live stream of this. And so I think particularly in that first year, live streaming was a way for the venues to sort of keep connected to their local audiences and sort of make sure that they were kind of in the minds of their local fans and things like that. And it was, for our venues anyway, it was a good way of kind of crowdfunding emergency resources for the venue, but also the artists as well, because obviously during the lockdown they couldn't perform as normal and they couldn't kind of go out and work. So it was actually a good way of kind of bridging that gap, you know.
We had similar, but from another direction. Since being in Sweden, we knew we would have funding, but we also knew since years of, well, being a small part of the lobbying area, we suddenly saw ourselves thrown into the midst of it and core, actually driving whole lobbying. We knew that from the politicians' point of view and even the Minister of Culture, and we have had close relationship, but have had this, well, to say it diplomatically, not quite understanding the industry, but unlike many people who were just, well, including myself, one can moan, but instead going, well, what can we do about it? And saying that, well, there are lots of fantastic people who really want to know about the industry. We've noticed this again pre-pandemic. So we had those relations and quickly thought, okay, how can we help? And how can we get everyone going? And since we have this amazing community, it's not at all something myself and Grace and Michael, the core team of my small company, but huge community, just everyone, even the head of venues, friends who I haven't had time to see for years, suddenly had time on their hands. So I said, can we just get everybody together so we can meet the government? That's one other advantage here in Sweden, I think in the Nordics in general. You can literally just walk down the street from where we are and they will listen. And this happened, and very quickly we joined forces with now collaborators of ours, among many, but Arts Dynamics friends, Michael and Frederick and Sophie, Sophie from Arts Dynamics and Michael and Frederick from Entrepreneur. Both, all of them are very successful creators, but also have their own communities. And they had launched something on Mondays on a small lobbying scale. So long story short, and now I'm in March 2020. So we all acted and reacted very quickly. So every Monday, and in the beginning it became actually every day we would have meetings with the government, but every Monday we would just set up a Zoom call and have the industry and the key players and organizations talk to the target politicians who were very, very susceptible to listening, that what you need and where do you need it and how can we help quickly. And we were, exactly as we all know here, that the live part is what needs it immediately. They are suddenly we have to save our stages, and they are not all state-owned as they used to be. So highly acute situation. And that's been a success, I must say. We only had a few 100 million in Swedish crowns in funding to the entire industry before this, and now there is over 3 billion just when it comes to the restart. Also making them understand that the restart, I'm sure we'll get back to, but sort of the period we're in now, since the pandemic is no way over, and as we know, it's not a matter of weeks and months and everything's back to normal. You need at least a few years. So they've set 2 years here for record-breaking funding. It's still a lot of work to be done, especially for smaller venues, but I'm very happy about this.
That is one brilliant example of how you can go and talk to the government. But I have a feeling that not in all countries it went so beautifully and positively. I think that in some of the countries and in music industry, like mostly the industry professionals are invisible, and they're supposed to be. If their job is well done, then the industry expert, tour manager, or anyone else is actually, you don't know what's going on in the backstage or in the curtains. So looking back, could have we done something better? Could have we, like, was there something else that we could have provided for the industry professionals at first? Or like you, Sarah, said that you were super quick to go and talk to the government. How did it go in Norway or in UK, for instance?
So I think for us, it was a little bit similar to Sarah as well, in that we had to go to a lot of meetings. So Mark, who's the CEO of NVT, I think there'd be 3 meetings a week with different government bodies, and the science group and the culture group, and trying to meet different ministers. But I think from a music industry perspective, it was a big learning curve for the government, as in they had to really learn about our industry. So for example, the majority of our industry is freelance, self-employed, and so getting the government to sort of understand that's how our organization and our industry is made up. Here are the basic facts of putting on a show, because they're politicians, they don't actually have experience in that kind of field. And so I think in the beginning, a lot of it was us trying to communicate to them our industry, but then also us learning a lot about kind of public health. And we're not scientists, so we had to kind of be guided by our scientists and the public health bodies, and our job wasn't to make public health decisions, but it was to kind of reframe how those decisions would impact our sector, and then therefore get them to understand some of those things. And that was I think that's still probably something we're still doing even 2 years on, and I think it's probably something we need to continue to do, and have a bit more of an integration between kind of the world of culture and science, and get people to sort of understand it, so that if, touch wood, hopefully this won't happen again, but if it does, there's more of a kind of understanding there.
Sten, on your side, how did it go in Norway?
Well, it's the same everywhere, I guess. But when it comes to the communication with the government and the Arts Council, I think that was moving quite slow, to be honest. And it's been tough to get them to work quickly in this situation. Again, of course, they have, of course, a lot to do and stuff, but it is like a problem still. Like applications that we sent in for May 2020, I just got a letter of confirmation on Friday. So it's moving super slow. So it's not really quick on getting money out to the system. With all the reporting and all the paperwork and everything that needs to come with all these applications. So it's been a bit worrying. And as Clara said as well, with I'm on a regular salary from the venue, but all the technicians and stuff, they're all freelancers, so they all like kind of got thrown under the bus, and so it's been a little bit learning by doing kind of thing, even for the government. So as was mentioned, I think the government and the Arts Council is actually kind of like now starting slowly to understand how the music industry actually works, because it's been it hasn't been a very good connection between the two sides of it.
I think I also would like to emphasize that we certainly, of course, have had exactly this challenge of when the positive side of it going the right direction is that this is 2 years ago. So where we are today, when it comes to the speed and the government out of Sweden and the processes, they are actually at the moment so fast, so people hardly have time to apply compared to 2 years ago. And it's been a very slow process. And as we know, of course, the advantage of us who are entrepreneurs or our own smaller entities, we can pivot very quickly, and that government processes in themselves, I mean, these are usually 24-month, 2 to 5 year decisions that they suddenly have to do monthly. So, and also in all industries. Where we were in Sweden, in particular, very upset and hardly hit was that this immediately closing down all the venues, whereas shops and shopping malls and huge other places were all open. So one couldn't understand that part. And as you were saying, Clara, that of course we are not scientists and we need to follow. And but realizing afterwards, again, it comes from not quite understanding having this disconnect between the industries. So, and then another huge challenge that has been for, as you say, it's of course the same here. It's run by single person companies often. And in Sweden, at least, there is a system, a very, very good, as everyone knows, social security system that does apply to everybody. But there is also with most people everyone who has been working and suddenly has no work that way, there is a 450-day amazing, normally amazing unemployment insurance that is connected to the unions. Now, to have, I think it was nearly 70-80% of our industry, not only live, but the whole creative industries, that were not eligible for this insurance because of the way the rules were. And it takes, you have to be a member of, you have to have signed up for that insurance union. You are immediate and automatic, more or less. But this insurance was normally, you have to have belonged to for 2 years. There they did a very quick pivot and changed it to 3 months, so people could join. But then without going too much into that, where there still today is a huge challenge is that to apply for the funding now, you need to have a company, and to keep your benefit, you have to have put your company down on either shut it down or put it complete. You can keep it resting for a while. So, but this is what's been amazing with these Mondays, that till just last Monday, and now on the 4th again, we have with the people directly, horse's mouth, can get the questions from us. We literally sit there saying, this is what everyone says, this is crazy, how do you apply? And how do you do this? And they say, yes, we know, we have to change this. And we say, we have to do it quicker because we are losing venues still. And there's soon not even a theatrical venue in the midst of Stockholm. Not to mention, and the theatrical venues are used a lot for music, since the music venues of that size have been shut down for quite some time, sadly. So it's of course a challenge, but I like that it sounds, we have this in common. It seems that there is now a closer relationship between the government and the industry in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the fund, eventually the UK did get funding called the Cultural Recovery Fund, and I think a large part of our job, sort of behind the scenes, was to try and sort of demonstrate that the normal funding timelines, which Sarah said normally take months and months and months. I mean, we had to basically say this funding needs to get out the door within a few weeks, or it's not going to do what it needs to do. So I think kind of that ability to work and advocate sort of for our members, but also just give the government quite a straight reading of this is where the flaws are in the policy and this is how it's going to work. And I think like Sarah, we had a lot of sort of instances where the policy would say one thing, but then if you were this type of venue, you weren't eligible. So we had to go back and try and be like, well, are you aware of this? And so there was a lot of kind of I guess diplomatically, a lot of inconsistencies, and a lot of the jobs to try and highlight those inconsistencies and see if something could be done about it.
And also, I don't know if it's the same for you both, but the application processes, when we would also in the end sit there saying, have you tried to apply this yourself? Because it's so complex.
Absolutely.
That has been a challenge as well, of course.
For our venues, I think the first half of, eventually when we saw that there would be funding, a lot of our job was to kind of train the venues in how to apply for funding, because in the UK at least, they'd never really applied for public funding before because you couldn't. So they had to learn how to speak the language of a publicly funded organisation, which for our small grassroots music venues was almost like learning a new language. So a lot of our job was to sort of train and show them that the cultural activity that they were already doing, which before the pandemic was seen as commercial, actually was now culturally, publicly funded like activity, so they should try and go for the funding. And so once that sort of clicked into their mindset, we started to see like fantastic applications. And I think one of the, I don't want to say benefits of COVID, but one of the things that a lot of venues learned was for the first time how to write and apply for this type of funding. So moving forward, hopefully it'll be a bit more easy.
And that sounds exactly like the positive outcome here, that we have a lot of venues and companies and in the community that now realize, wow, we could have applied for funding all along and know how to do it. But we did also have those who had, since we have had these public grants for ever, not forever, but in my lifetime, then the ones who were good in the first round of funding, that actually did go very quickly, considering the time. But a large part of that went to those who were good at applying and who usually applied. So that would be the very large companies and large events and large venues. Not saying that they don't need it, but they had a longer time to survive because they were, of course, they are, they're also part of a community, but they know how to apply. So they could apply and they would get the funding, and even the government would say, but there's money left, no one is applying. I said, well, again, it's not easy to do so. But and as Clara was saying, a large part of our time went into as well to just it was a learning curve, how even for ourselves, that even though we didn't need to apply, luckily, but to learn how to do it so that we could coach everyone else, basically.
Have we really had like the first recoveries now after like comparing to the 2020-21? Is the industry coming back? Do you think that maybe at some point we could put the government funding aside or level it down a bit? How is it feeling in your countries? Is the music industry getting busier right now?
I think for us, it's sort of, again, coming in waves, in that this year, 2022, is very busy in terms of the calendar because so many shows have been rescheduled into this block. So we are seeing people wanting to return to live music. We're seeing a lot of audience kind of confidence to return and things like that. But it's still balanced, at least in the UK, with the fact that, you know, COVID is still here. Again, I was saying before the chat, cases are rising again in the UK. So that's having a knock-on effect on a lot of staffing. So a lot of like venue operators and staff are coming down with COVID, which makes running the shows very difficult. So I think whilst I'm sort of hopeful and it's sort of heartening to see the fact that people do want to return to gigs, I think it's going to be, you know, I think it's going to be years before we actually come back to kind of pre-pandemic levels of kind of turnover and things like that. So it's difficult for me to sort of say. I think the next 6 months is actually going to be the point where we really see who was able to survive the pandemic and who wasn't, you know.
And of course, it's as you were leading into as well, with the backlog of all the events that have been postponed, and concerts, and in all the creative arts here, at least they are struggling and fighting over the same few arenas we have left, and they can't all be in the huge venues. So you have that backlog, and then you have the things that were planned for now. So we still see a lot of cancellations just due to that there's nowhere to perform it, even though it's sold out, which is a shame. And then, of course, what you are saying, that we are still in a pandemic, and even if it is luckily milder for most, it of course affects the industry just like in any industry, because people are ill and home. And that's that. So yes, I have the same, not only feeling, but fact that this is going to take years to see whether it can survive even with the funding. And also, I just wanted to add, sorry, that when Neville, when you were saying from the beginning that of course, one area of the industry, we have an amazing artist, Lisa Nelson, who's done a huge, great viral video very early on. And also she herself spoke to the government to highlight the huge part of the industry that we all rely on that is not shown, and that no one hardly knows how it works. Like, who does the rider? Where are the technicians? All these people around. And also the view from the general public that, oh, this huge artist here or there is moaning because their gig is cancelled. And them saying, well, you know that a tour with me around the world can be up to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people's work gone. And this part, I think, is something that we want to highlight forever in the future. The wholeness of the industry. It's not only the ones on stage and promoters or labels, the side that people see, but the 90% that do the rest of the work. And we are very, very worried here, since over 70% of the technical production are now in other jobs. So it is hard to get them back. Don't know if the rest of you are finding the same.
Yeah, it's not everyone's been very good at unionizing themselves of the freelancers in Norway, but at least the numbers I read from the technical union, for the freelancers that works with the sound and lights and stuff, it's at least of their members, it was at least 40% that quit. But also it's not just the technicians. It's a lot of other people as well. Just running a venue as well. Like we've had just isolated for us. Like the manager has quit, and the bar manager has quit, and also my nightclub booking colleague has also quit. So you have a lot of like the administrative parts of it as well, and just like people working the floor as well, bartenders and security and whatnot. Like it's all pretty much gone, and it's still a struggle to like reset everything. And especially for Norway, it's like it is a bit of a problem with the fundings, because as soon as they did a full reopening on the 12th of February, all the subsidies disappeared. So it's all kind of like been cut to the bone, and as I was mentioned, numbers are rising, and people are afraid to go to concerts, or maybe they're just staying at home, having Omicron or whatever variants, and or maybe if it's not them, maybe their partner or maybe their kids and stuff like that. So it's just, you can have still concerts with a ridiculous high percentage of no shows that's bought tickets, and also just in general, it's just sales are slow. Most shows that we can like predict from like pre-pandemic numbers and everything is down to like half for some of the artists. So it is, and it's by far not over.
That's the same here, unless it's like a huge Ed Sheeran coming here, or a very large artist. And then of course that many also we highlighted for the government when they say, yes, but now the venues are back and restrictions are lifted. I said, yes, but our industry, the live especially, if anything, is global. So if people are in lockdown in the UK or US, how are we going to, we're not going to have any major tours or people in the venues or the production crews that are usually the same. Many don't realize how global the industry actually is, not just from an artist perspective, but the people working in it.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, we were able to do a few festivals last summer as part of like scientific testing and things like that. And so this will be the first year where, you know, there won't be any restrictions, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see what's the percentage of people who've left the industry, because, you know, COVID was this kind of life-changing event. So if it didn't make you sort of reevaluate your life. You're probably what were you living through, you know. But at the same time, I think it's interesting. Well, I mean, for the UK at least, we've then also got the kind of knock-on effect of Brexit, and what's that going to happen for our kind of production of festivals? Will there be enough crew? Will there be enough haulage companies? Will there even be the material to build the stages? I mean, all of those sorts of things are a big question mark at the moment, and obviously that's a huge, you know, part of the UK live music industry. So I think although, you know, the government, we don't have any technical restrictions at the moment, like Sarah said, we're very far from being the kind of the normal music industry again. I think there's going to be lots of challenges on a logistical level to make it work.
And I would like to, the positive side of that is that I feel that the whole global industry have really, we've always been good at collaborating, but now it's just escalated, which I think is amazing. I also what Stein was saying with Norway, with the venues and clubs, etc., that this closeness, which really anyone in live has always known between hospitality and the music industry, live events, it's literally the same industry when it comes to being hit in this way. And many people who work in the pool of especially the larger venues, I think any venue, often have been, if they are bartending during the events, then their day job is usually at a hotel or at a club, and then all of those were shut as well. So, and many have young families, etc. So of course they needed to get a job elsewhere, and then it's not just to jump back in again.
On that note, actually, one of the things in the industry we did was that at first, when we realized that COVID hit us so bad, we instantly started collaborating and we instantly started communicating with each other. I think even more, like a lot more than before the pandemic. And what also happened was the realization of professionals saying that live music industry doesn't work because ABC. There is a business model problem. There is so many links that have so many problems. And the not justification, but the promise was to, after COVID, to come back better, to come back stronger, to deal with these problems, to still communicate, still collaborate. Once we get on the fast spin wheel and start having these shows and everything again, do you guys think that all of these promises that we gave during the COVID, that they still stand after that? Are we still going to have a better live industry, or are we going to have a post-live industry with the same problems?
I think for us, one of the things that we saw in the pandemic was a creation of a kind of trade body of the trade bodies. So in the UK, it was called Live, which all the big promoters, all the big agents, MBT and other organisations all came together really for the first time ever. That had never happened in the UK sort of music industry. And, you know, the UK music industry is incredibly competitive. You have all the major labels, the major promoters. And I think for the first time, everyone was sort of actually in the same room together. And so I'm hoping that will continue kind of post pandemic, and it isn't just a crisis thing. I think one of the big things that we were able to establish just was that actually we could get into the room and have a productive conversation that didn't descend into kind of, rivalries between different factions or whatever. And, you don't want to get rid of all of that, because that makes the UK scene very competitive. But at the same time, I think it was like Sarah was saying, that there's a recognition that the music industry is kind of an ecosystem. And if one section of it falls, really the whole thing falls, and so I think that before there really wasn't that kind of, you weren't thinking about it like that, but now I think a lot of the kind of labels and promoters and agents sort of do recognize that you can't just have your big acts, you need to have all of it, and it needs to all filter through in order for it to be sustainable 10 years down the line and things like that.
So true.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that it will continue. I hope it won't just descend back into, the rivalries or whatever. But I think it was, again, I mean, it's just such a generational, the biggest crisis our industry ever faced. So if we were to just return to 2019, I think we've actually missed an opportunity, you know.
And I also think one point where of view that I see, literal point of view, I actually thought where I was mentioning that the several music tech companies, of course, those who were working very close to live are still hit. But music tech companies and solutions, platforms, etc., that were already there, we had those who could hardly get a meeting with an investor and suddenly were bombarded and just already had the solutions in place, especially out of Sweden. And the Nordics, we've been lucky that way. Huge amount of innovation, as always. But I thought when it comes to the so-called, since I never see things, I think from day one, many of us have said that it's not going to be a get back to. One doesn't go back. Everything that happens will affect, even positive effects. It's a new future. And at the same time, 2 years and 2 years plus have passed. And that's an enormous time, if you see it from the tech angle. So the challenges and also the solutions that were happening anyway, some of them, especially when it comes to the perspective of what is the future like, what is life? Because are we not also counting the future, the current younger people who are already, I shouldn't say only younger, but because it's probably all of us as well, but if one looks at people who are born post-millennial now, sort of maybe 2010 forward, that where are they? They are in a virtual world. They're on the games. They've had concerts. Of course, we have heard of several. What to me, as a tech geek, is a live gig. And when people say that it will always be as it has been, and it will always live will always be, I always react at that, because I love asking some of the major promoters, for example, are you working in the VR space? Are you working in the virtual real life world? It may not be meat space in the flesh, but that's where people consider. I even start to feel that, I'm probably older than everyone, but feel that it's actually happening. And this is just the beginning of that. I thought that part would escalate quicker now during the pandemic, but whether it has or has not, and apart from the sort of attitude, it's the same of, yes, we use this during the pandemic, then we get back to how it was. I felt that and feel still that it's missed opportunities if one doesn't look at it as not only hybrids with actual concerts and online, but also in the VR space and in the game. It's actually a possibility of having 3 revenue streams instead, where the live industry that has been affected for a long time. And as I say, and we all know, many of these challenges are pre-pandemic. But it would be interesting to hear what the rest of you feel on this.
Well, I think when we stopped with doing all the streaming events in June in 2020, when everything reopened again, it was so. You noted it was just basically the entire reaction already then after after a 2-month lockdown, that they were so fed up with with the concerts. But it's like, of course, the combination of being forced to sit at home as well. But so I wouldn't say necessarily going back to how it was, but at least like there has been like a yearning towards that meeting points, being just going to a restaurant or bar, but also just just experience stuff together with people, and together, not necessarily being in a chat room online. So it's we haven't been working too much at like forcing through any new platforms for our sake. We just need to like stabilize, of course, what we're doing already. But it's I don't find it necessarily very directly like hitting our target audience either. I think it's maybe some other sectors of the demographics that could probably benefit from it. It's especially what we saw like was the best reaction to all the streaming shows we did was for the first time doing children's concerts and also concerts for elders. Those two demographics that kind of like didn't have that kind of like mobility to go to a regular like, well, of course also restricted part of the not going to a venue. They were the best viewed concerts, and I think splitting it up would probably be the best thing for our part. I don't think we're going to aim so much in the tech direction.
And don't get me wrong, I think I certainly believe, just as I'm sure everyone does, that the value of live, anything live or meet space, as the kids say, where, as you say, whether it's a concert or a restaurant or each other, that closeness, how incredibly aware of this we are if we weren't already, but certainly have become with the pandemic. It's what a human need it is. And but the other part where online platforms and the virtual world is reaching people and making it much more democratic in the way that people who have never been able to go to, whether most can never afford in their lives to go to any concert, even a small one, or don't have it anywhere close to where you are. So it's that sort of, and also what you were saying there with right now, in the short term, everyone, of course, everyone just loves to meet anything we do. That value is, and I hope that value will last, of course. But I mean more that these three I see as coming together somehow, and prefer to look at it as a brighter future than because going completely back to how it wasn't that great, right?
No.
Well, that's a good forecast. And actually, for the final question here, I would like you to think or forecast or prognosis somehow what will be the next year from today, a year forwards. What will be the live industry? So what will we have? Will we have a complete shutdown maybe again? Will we have things opening up, getting busier? Will we have actually, like as you said, coming together into a hybrid world of live meetups in online spaces and then having physical spaces? What will it really be? Clara, let's start with you.
I think for me, I think the next year to 2 years is probably more about sort of stabilization and recovery. I think for us, it's difficult to know kind of on the ground. We're doing an analysis of, which venues have survived, which venues have closed. And so I think it's going to take us a little bit of time to really see, I guess, like let the dust settle and see what's there. I think I am hopeful that like people will want to come back to music. We did a thing in January called Revive Live, which was all about getting the live music industry back up and running. So I think that will go ahead. I think barring a massive kind of policy change, and I don't know anything, don't have any insider knowledge about it, but barring a massive policy change, I don't think this government, as in the UK government, will impose restrictions again. That doesn't seem to be the direction that they want to go in. So I think really it's going to be a bit of a period of reflection, I think, and sort of see where we are, see who has managed to survive. But I think it's really going to take a few years to get back or get to a level where venues are stabilized, because at the moment they're still paying off huge amounts of debt that they've accrued during this 2-year period. So I think it's going to be still touch and go, but I'm sort of optimistic because people during this crisis, really there was a huge outpouring of support from the public about venues and helping artists, and so the kind of love and support is there, and I think that's the thing that makes me hopeful, even if it's going to be quite a difficult road ahead.
I'm hoping that what you were saying there towards, I agree with everything you're saying, Clara, actually, because I also think it's such a long process just to not only let the dust settle, but still get on with saving, especially venues and the live. So that part is number one. The technological part, that whole whatever is happening happens anyway. That's it's always been that way, not only because of younger generations, but because of the exponential curve we were already in when it comes to technology. So I don't think we can even imagine what do we call live in 5 years. But as you say, right now in the immediate future, the current, not only the future, but where we are right now is just still dealing and getting everything in some kind of stability.
Yeah, I think the stability is kind of like the key word here. Basically, it's financially, it's a bit we're not like out of it at all. There's a lot of pending costs waiting that's just been pushed forward, and also, as I said, like the subsidy's gone, and then the ticket sales a bit slow. So it's like it's going to be quite some time before everything's back to normal. If you're gonna be super optimistic about it, I would say in the fall we can see something closer to normality, but probably closer to a year to be more realistic about it. Yeah, no, it's fingers crossed, basically.
Okay, then we have it. Let's hope for the best, prepare for the worst, but potentially we don't have to. I really hope that everything is getting busier, that we have learned quite a lot, even learned things we probably didn't want to learn, but we just had to at this point. And I hope that this COVID really brought us together. Thank you so much, Sarah, Sten, and Clara, being with us in this first panel. welcome everyone to our second panel, Music to Move the World. We have some amazing artists from Ukraine here today with us. First off, I would like to introduce the duo. We see Timber Blanche, in the Ukrainian music duo that was founded in 2020, so not long ago, by two independent street musicians. They have all together almost 13 million listeners with that short amount of time. Welcome, Timber Blanche.
Hi.
Next up, we have Disappeared Completely, indie pop trio from Kiev. And here we have Marina as the artist crew member. So the band had their big release Sea of Fallen Nests in 2017, which got them in several major publications like Rolling Stone, Men's Health, and now they have over 1 million streams in Spotify and thousands of fans. Welcome, Marina.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Roxolana. So Roxana Ansireta, singer-songwriter, has been the contest of The Voice of Ukraine, season 9, has created an art project in Ukraine featuring contemporary pop music and lyrics reowned by Ukrainian poets, which also launched her solo career. And in the beginning of 2022, she was shortlisted in the top 8 of national finals at the Eurovision Song Contest. So welcome, Roxolana.
Hi.
And last but not least, we have our amazing Kola, song producer and songwriter. She has been making music since being just 5 years old. So she's all about music, sincerity, and breath. Has been a participant Voice of Ukraine 6th season, national competition Eurovision 2017, Dancing with the Stars seasons 2018 to 2021, and Voice of Ukraine 11th season. What a hard forced career woman, Kola. Welcome.
Hello.
So before we get into what is surrounding you every day, I would like to push you guys and pull you out of it to remind you like the good feeling of when you started your career. I think a lot of artists struggle and are stressed because they don't have money, they don't have very much time either, and they would like to get their music out there. So how did you start out, Kola? Let's go with you first.
Okay, how I started. I just went to The Voice of Ukraine, and I thought that everything changed in my life, but it's not. But it was not. So I was started to write, to wrote songs. I'm sorry for my English sometimes, because I think that my thoughts and every words like disappeared, and in the stress that is in my country. So I was trying to do everything. I was trying to, hello, my name is Anastasia. I want to show my music. Listen. And for everyone, I was came and said this. So then I started my work in Dancing with the Stars, and that was too. That was hard to be there too, because producer Vova he didn't want to see me there, and I was trying to be in the part of this big family, and then they took me. Then they said to me that I'm great, that I'm amazing, that I'm amazing singer, and after this I was trying to go to the Voice of Ukraine again, and after this I had my family, second family. It's my manager, it's my assistant, it's my sound producer, it's my musicians. So now I'm just trying to make my music, and I'm trying to promote it. I don't know how I just can, in Instagram, in YouTube, by my friends, by my, I don't know, everywhere I'm trying to show my music. And now it's more possible because we have YouTube, Instagram, and we can speak from these areas, and it's cool for me. I don't know. I think that in different professions, it's hard to become popular because a lot of people want to be singers, want to be doctors, and you should just, you must have a big dream, the dream of all your life, and work hard every day, and do it like very, how to say, with open heart. Do it with open heart, do it with love, and I think that everything will be good in different professions if you will do like this.
Roxolana, you have had quite a similar career. So
yeah.
you've also taken the step of using like popular television shows to boost your career and get to your audience. So what in addition would you recommend?
Really, I've heard everything that Kola said, and I really feel super familiar to this story. And I have the same feelings that in this profession, you have to work hard no matter what. You have to work, you have to write songs, you have to try to show them everywhere, you have to continue. And I think, you know, that this someone who goes through this path, he will definitely be there where he wants. So I want to say that on one hand, sure, some shows really help you to, you know, to show and to show your music to your audience. But as for me, I feel more like, you know, that my music been pushed through Eurovision more than through Voice. And I think it's very logically, because Voice is more like a talent show, and Eurovision, there's the song contest. So more people, they really heard your song and they like, I like her song. I'll go to her Spotify and Apple Music, and this really helps. But I feel like, you know, it is more useful to try such thing as your personal social medias. And sometimes it is really like, it will work better if your song goes viral on TikTok or Instagram, etc. And it sometimes can help more than, you know, being on a super big TV show.
Great. Marina?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that I haven't been like in this band from the start, because I became part of this amazing band only last year. But I know their history, and they started as students. It was 4 of them. And as I know, they liked, and it's actually going on right now. We like to share our music in more organic way, in more natural way, without like pushing it too much. Maybe like through the opinion leaders, through our social media, through our platforms. And then if people hear our music and it's like resonates with their soul and they like it, they just starting to know us more, starting to listen to us. And like internet, like in general, I think this is this was our way to start. But in the beginning, they said that they were like students in the same university, and they started there. They started to promote their music there, and only throughout the years it became more huge. Like their started to upload their music on the platforms like Apple Music, Spotify, and trying to share their music in, as I said, like more natural, organic way.
I know that Timber Blanche has some good thoughts on it, being independent, getting your way up here.
We are completely independent duo. I was playing on the streets of Kyiv for 6 years, and I was spreading my music through streets directly to the ears of the listeners. Then I met Sasha, and we decided to go further together and started Timber Blanche. So we played our song on the streets before we released it on the streaming platforms, on the Spotify, on the Apple Music, etc. So we think we're not about big show business. We just want to write songs and give it to our listeners and our fans.
Got it. So going to the fact that a lot is currently going on, you guys seem the happiest bunch I've seen, and I'm so happy for it, that you are here today with us and sharing your knowledge. Do you currently have a working routine? Do you feel like getting up in the morning and actually writing something through these emotions you have? Is this something that you do right now?
Yes. Yes, we still continue to work on our songs, but of course we changed the creative vector according to new reality. If previously I used to worry that I can't write the lyrics about some big social problem, that, because I just can't feel it, then now Russians decided to help me with that. And unfortunately, the lyrics about the war, now are written by themselves. And a few weeks ago, we released the track Ты живой. It translates as You're Alive. It's about how great our defenders are and that we will definitely win. And this Friday, it will be released a new track, but this time a sad one. It's about unborn children and their mothers who were killed by Russians. But the mission of this track is not to plunge people into the grief, but power the motivation with anger. What about daily routine? I think it reminds me of Groundhog Day. We temporarily live in a small town in Kyiv region. It's Vlad's hometown, and every day like the same, like a previous day. Fortunately, we have kept our job and we can work and support the economy. In addition, we fight on the information front. We perform at the charity events, and also we volunteer a little. For instance, recently we raised money for our friend who is fighting in the Luhansk region.
Kola, what about you? You seem to have strong feelings on this.
I am now in Mukachevo. It's the western side of Ukraine. 5 days ago, I was in Uzhgorod. Then 3 days ago, I was in Slavske. So we are moving I don't know why, where, but moving somewhere. Because, for example, we rent an apartment or a room in a hotel. And in 2 days, they say to us, okay, our, mother or sister is moving to us, so just leave the room, please. And we said, okay. And that's why we are moving from place to place. But Of course, I'm trying to be a volunteer too. I'm trying to collect money and buy some necessary stuff for our army because the close friend of my husband, future husband, because he's not my husband yet, but future husband, he is now near to Kiev, and so we help this men's and buy some necessary stuff. Also, I'm writing songs because if I will not do this, I will die because of this thoughts in my brain. My mom lives in Spain, and she's calls me all the time and said, Anastasia, you must come to me, but I can't. I don't know. Maybe I will go there later if some people of my label, yes, if they go too, because if they will go too, we will have some concerts there in Europe, and we will be able to collect some money for our army. But now I don't want to go, just to sit in Spain and that's it. What else I'm doing? I don't know. We lived with our friends, and they have a small daughter, 2 years old, and I played with her every day. So it was very. I was glad to do this, and I'm so sorry, but I want to say thank you for the whole Europe and for your country for supporting Ukraine now, and. We are really very thankful to you, and thank you that you do such a big things to our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was beautiful to hear. And one of the beautiful things I see behind Roxolana, I see a piano that's intact. That
do you? Yes, this is the I live in Lviv. This is my hometown, and of course I moved to Kiev since I was 6, and I just came back here. And the friends of mine that live down the street, they thought about me, and I've just told once, oh, maybe someone has some music instruments, and the next morning they brought me this very old synth. But I'm so grateful because it sounds, and I'm just like on the 7th cloud, you know.
Have you written already something on it? Do you get to push your emotions on it?
Well, you know, it's really very difficult now. I've heard that Denver Blanche, you guys wrote the song about kids, and this Friday we are also releasing a song about in behalf of the kids that died because of the aggression of Russian and G2. Wow. And yes. You know what I thought? It's not like this is, it's like crazy, but our life is not like our life, and we have war. Our life is war. We have nothing except war. This is the only thing that is now in our lives. And I think every musician feels it so much that we really we see this news, we see this videos, we hear that sound of shots and stuff, and of course we have to say it, and we say it in different ways, but we say the same things. And that's what I wanted to say, that, you know, as a songwriters, I think you guys will agree with me that you just need to have, like, you need to be in the mood, and you really have to have something inside so you can translate it. But as for me, when I need to write something really positive so people can feel motivated and they're just not really so sad, etc. And then I just take my phone, and I saw those videos of kids dying, you know, and of cities bombed, and I just feel like nothing. I I can't write anything. And this is like a roller coaster when you're super motivated and you really have a lot to say till you have nothing and you feel like you can't help. So yeah, I write, but this is the tough time and tough work.
Yeah, definitely. I get you. You can't sometimes, according to like Timber Blanche, it's good to be feeling a very strong emotion, but sometimes you need this kind of quiet serenity. You need this zone, and you can't really get it if you don't have a place or an atmosphere for it. So I absolutely understand where you're coming from with that. Marina, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to say that we are as a group. Of course, when we are producing music, we have to be together. And unfortunately now, we all left our homes. We all left our like average normal lives, because I used to live in Kiev and now I live in my hometown. And also our frontman, he's actually involved in defending our country. So he cannot just be in this process. And just our priorities has changed a lot, because for now it's just important to save our lives, like stay in touch with our friends, with our relatives. It's just in first place, and only then comes music for us. And of course, we can't even like meet up anymore. We can't attend our studio that we actually recently just set up, because the studio in Kiev, and we all just around the Ukraine, because and it's not even safe in around in Ukraine. So music is not like in the first place. But I feel like later, when everything will be quiet with our victory, I believe in, it will come. These emotions that you said, it's roller coaster, I think it will quiet a little bit, and this mood for producing music will come with more like motivation after this. And I feel like the Ukrainian music industry will bloom after this. I hope it will.
I hope so too. Definitely. Have you heard lately maybe an artist song or something that was written with quite a powerful message or quite a powerful feelings that has motivated you, or that you've seen that unites the nation? What kind of projects or songs have you seen currently going around that could get a bit more of the word out there, especially also to the Western countries, not only in Ukraine, to be honest?
Well, I can tell. I saw a project. It was by Sarah Shear. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
I had to look. It was the song "Close the Sky" Lullaby. And it's, in my opinion, it's a really powerful project. It was played in like Square of Germany, if I'm right. It went viral on social medias, and it's just great. And I think this kind of project can convey our stories, our struggles that we are going through right now as Ukrainians.
Timber Blanche, you had something to add?
Yeah, we wanted to tell about this song too. We really like it, and we find it really appealing to all the Western nations who can hear it, and it's a great song.
Roxolana, have you heard something?
I haven't heard this song, but I'm Googling now, so I will definitely watch it after that. But there is, I don't know, maybe it's in my social media bubble or something, but I see really a huge amount of songs, and they're like super motivating for me. And I personally, first like 2 weeks, I've been listening to this super powerful content, and I was like super motivated. But now, and I understand really why, because people after 33 days, they're quite tired, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And I really enjoying, this funny funny music stuff. I'm sorry for that, but it really it helps me to feel nice and fun and okay, even when there is a lot of stuff happening. So yes, and there is a huge amount of stuff, and it is created by Ukrainian musician and artist, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm super grateful for that.
Kola, what's been yours takeaway?
I think that each musician now in Ukraine trying to write something about Ukraine, and it's really amazing because, for example, I wrote my song Ukraina ми сила like in 1 hour. It was words, melody, and arrangement, which I made by my phone, and by this I wrote my vocal. So, and it's really cool because I see how many people want to support us in a different countries with their songs. So now I'm not listening music even in a car. I don't know why. Just we are riding car in a silent. Yes, silent. Okay, and that's it. I don't know why. And I'm really happy that, of course, monies are running out, and I must think what to do in the future. But I'm really happy now when I'm writing a song, when I do this routine, when I'm searching some musicians in Mukachevo and asking, please, I need to write my vocal, I need a wire, I need something else, and but I don't listen music. I don't know why. I'm just reading news and watch some funny stuff also, and videos from Russians. Okay, stupid Russians. Okay, that's it.
Definitely, I understand you. Sometimes getting your mind out and escaping, the best way is not looking inside of you, but just disappearing, just forgetting that you're in the room that you're currently in. So I understand why this is happening. Can music connect nations, and what can currently other musicians who would like to join in with you on this mission of sharing the message, telling the message, what can they do? What would you expect them to do?
I think okay, sorry. Yeah, you go.
Okay. Definitely music can connect nations. There is a song that can cheer up, give hope and faith in victory, and there are those which forever engrave the horrors of war in our hearts. Both kinds of songs are important, and both can heal. Even it's a different kind of healing for something, but there are some diseases caused by some artists that think that they can be a doll of a piece. They are telling that there are it's only putting fault, Russians are innocent, but they're not. In general, I want to believe that now no one will dare to say that music is out of politics. Music was never out of politics, and all of those alleged Ukrainian artists who for 8 years gave concerts in Russia and focused on the Russian market and now decided to stand on the right path do not deserve forgiveness. There is nothing righteous about leaving the Russian market in the 8 year of war when there is no money and possibilities left on that market. So yes, we can appeal to other nations, but not to Russians. Everything is lost with them. Western countries, that's who we should turn to now, as we called as we mentioned before, Sarah Shear's song "Close the Sky Lullaby" is a great example of such an appeal. So yes, power of music exists. It's play a very big role in the information war. For the different about the different European and Western artists and media persons, every one of them have an audience. It will be great help to cover what is actually happening in Ukraine. You can make it so that more people hear about it, about the crimes of the Russians against the Ukrainian people. And if we talk about helping music industry, now it plays, I think, secondary role. But the spreading of Ukrainian culture will not be superfluous now. We already know that our song by Timber Bunch currently got into rotation on the radio in Estonia, Lithuania, Germany, and Portugal. And this is a very important support for us. And I think everyone should speak about Ukraine right now.
Roxolana, you started.
Yeah, I totally agree. You almost said everything that I wanted, and thank you for that. And I also really wanted to say, while musicians, they are spreading this information, as much as they spread it, as much as they show like the real situation in Ukraine, the more we feel that, we are not alone, and like everybody know the real problem. Because that, I think, what are we most scared is that war in Ukraine will have the same situation as everything, like the war in 2014 or coronavirus. Even you remember when it first happened, everybody was like in the internet, everybody was checking the news, the numbers, etc. And after like some period of time, people start losing their interest, and it happens somewhere there, but like it's not here. And I think it is very, very important that musicians, they really talk a lot, they really show it a lot. Of course, it can be in different ways, like we are musicians, artists, we can collaborate, we can make some duos together, or we can collaborate, they can just show this in their social media, because like they have huge amount and they have huge impact on people. Yeah.
Gola.
They said everything already, but what I can say, what else? I'm proud of our artists, of our musicians. For example, Alexandra Zaritska, which is in the United States now. Svetoslav Vakarchuk, who's moving from one town to another one, and sing there for people, for our people. I don't know, for everyone who are yelling by singing their songs everywhere, and such ways they help our country so much. So I'm proud and very thankful for them.
Marina.
Yeah, I agree with all the words under, but I wanted to say that I really hope that we will not be considered as musicians and actually as country at all. We will not be considered as some country under Russia, near Russia, somewhere there, because we are actually Europeans, and we have always been mentally Europeans, and that is actually that all the Ukrainian people want. And we actually hope that musicians and some organizations in Europe can look for us more, because we're actually here, and there are a lot of great music in Ukraine that they can provide and put in their European radio station, or just like festivals, some showcase. And we are actually looking for working with the European organization more and more as we move away from Russian. Because unfortunately there was a lot of connection to like Russian actually like platforms. Our platforms was connected to Moscow and so on. And we just do not want this anymore. We want to like push away further from this like as we can, and to stay connected with Europe more. Because we actually, as I said, there are a lot of great music in Ukraine, and I really want this music to be heard in Ukraine, to share this music, to share Ukrainian music in Ukraine, in Europe, I'm sorry, more. That's my desire.
So the main things we can all do, and the minimum we should do, is first of all, to never forget that this thing is going on. I know people get tired so fast, but honestly, sitting here in Estonia, I am so freaking scared. Like the moment I heard that Ukraine was invaded, I was shocked. I honestly didn't know what to say. I just, yeah, the understanding and the feelings that went through me. So I can't even I can't compare it to what you went through, because I think it's only one of millionth of units. And I think it's super important that we don't get tired of this, that we spread the word and we spread the right word. So there is a war going on in Ukraine and people should understand it. It's a fact. There's nothing that anyone can say to make it not look like a war. It's just not possible. And I hope that every artist, like minimum, could somehow either collaborate with you or be the part of sharing this information as much as possible. And I think it's important to acknowledge that this isn't happening anywhere far. Ukraine is quite near to the heart of Europe. It's not far from people at all. And just closing your eyes and thinking that it's far is never going to help anyone. So the best we can do is practically help to donate to the Red Cross, help people who are refugees who have gone out of the country, and help the people who are in the country right now. Is there anything else that I missed out that you would say that, yes, do also this?
I would like to put a little mark that you said donate to Red Cross. It's thank you, but in Ukraine we have a lot of stuff going on with the Red Cross. I think or you don't know it. Okay, no. So I'll tell you just a little piece. So Red Cross is opening an office in Rostov-na-Don. It is Russia, so they can help people from the bombed territories from Ukraine to go there, but we really don't need it and people don't need it. So if it is possible, we will be we will appreciate if you donate directly to the, we have a lot of, how do you say this, the organization and funds in Ukraine. So yeah, we will be very grateful for that.
I think that's a good information piece that a lot of people, just like me, don't know. So I am happy that you mentioned it, and it should be stated out loud and clear. I thank you, Roxolana, for this. I thank you, Timber Blanche, Marina, Gola, for being with us here today. And I don't have anything to say that would help you or encourage you, but I think you guys are amazing. Meeting you, having just 40 minutes of talk with you, and I've never been in a panel that has been so powerful in anywhere across Europe, and we just made this in a few days in a Zoom environment, and I think you guys are amazing. Gola has something to say.
Have you ever been in Ukraine?
No, I have not.
So we are waiting for you after the war stop.
Yeah, this is important thing. Not really now, maybe after, soon.
So yes, we are waiting for you here because we have very beautiful country, really, and incredible people.
I believe it. I hope that the war will be over soon so that everyone can go and visit Ukraine and see the beauty and also see the aftermath and bring some economic wealth into with tourism, for example, to help to build this country up again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hello everyone, welcome back. We are at our third panel with these amazing folks right here. So we're going to talk about post-COVID concert productions. And today with us, firstly, I would like to introduce Gregory. So he has worked in the music industry past 5 years as a live and studio sound engineer. So formerly, he worked as a technical manager and the front of house engineer in Club Bunker 47 in Moscow, where he did local and foreign artist shows. Then he moved to Ukraine to do a bit of other kind of film television productions. And now he is with us here today. Hello, Gregory.
Hello.
So next up we have Natalia Basak. So she started out actually as a singer in the industry and now has been working 12 years. That's quite a long time. She's a front of house and the monitor engineer and the stage technician. So she has worked with bands from Poland and abroad, Doda, Hones, Jordan Reen, Jennifer Batten, and many, many more. Welcome here, Natalia.
Hey.
And last but not least, we have amazing Emma Gazdik as a Slovakian sound engineer, production manager, and the backline technician, and the stage manager based in UK. So her current role is a production manager and sound engineer in Future Yard, CYC, where she manages all aspects of the live show. She also works as a freelance sound engineer for artists and production companies. So we have Adlib, Total Control Sound as a backline technician, and from touring artists, we have an artist called Circa Waves. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you. Hi.
So amazing to have you all here. First of all, last year we did Writer Day 2021, which was the start of a huge crisis, or the heart of the crisis. Do you remember maybe the time that COVID started? Like, how did it feel for you? Can you maybe share a bit on that? For example, Emma.
So for me personally, that was the time when I was just getting started. That's when I was getting my first jobs in the industry. And it was very disheartening for me, honestly, because I was just about to get, my first big jobs. Like, I was working kind of side jobs in sound, but I was just about to get started on, working for festivals, working with artists, and then it all just collapsed. So it made me think, is this even worth it? Did I pick the wrong industry to get into? It isn't, but I didn't. But it was very, very, very difficult to think about it, to not know when it's coming back, and to not know what the deal was in the end.
Understandable. Natalia, did you have something similar?
Actually, I was working in the industry before the pandemic, so that was pretty familiar for me, that I have 3-4 days per week when I'm going out and living on tour. And when the COVID starts, I felt confused, because one day all of my schedule for the rest of the month was cancelled. So actually that was crazy for me. I never imagined things like that.
Gregory.
So yeah, it was really hard.
Yeah.
I had, I think, quite similar feelings as Emma did, because I was working in the industry for a while before the COVID starts, but I think that 2020 was the year when I finally started to get from middle and small venues to high venues. So I had a few connections with sound engineers just before, at the end of 2019. I met a few sound engineers who works with Class A artists in Russia, and I was about to get in this big game. I don't know. And suddenly all this starts, and all my shows were cancelled. Our club was closed for quarantine, and it was really hard. And first time it seems that this couldn't last for more than a few months, but virus specialists started already to talk that this will probably end at the end of 2022, and he was like, no, this is not possible at all. How? A month or two and everything will open up. And then after 2 months I realized that this will last for long. So this was hard.
I can imagine the shock I think we all had. We had like complete denial of the situation. Then we had a bit of like, okay, maybe we can somehow make this kind of work. Maybe we'll have like testing, maybe we'll have like online concerts. Maybe things will, go back a bit faster. Maybe, the vaccine came out. Can we now start? We still can't start. Damn it. So we kind of have had this like a roll of emotions from positive to negative to super, super negative, like really, really looking back to it. but now I think things are coming a bit back. I think things are starting to get more and more active, especially in countries where COVID restrictions are completely lifted and there is a new breath, a new energy in the industry. So how are things starting to look out to you in your countries? Are things getting busier? Are concerts coming back? How many productions are currently going on? You can start, Emma.
Well, the UK has basically lifted most of its restrictions by now. So for the industry here, it's definitely coming back. We have lost a big part of our workforce, which is something that needs to be considered because even though the productions are back, there aren't enough people to work in those productions, which is becoming an issue. And then everyone who does work gets overworked or overbooked, and that is also a problem. But from the perspective of COVID, we had a bit of a rough time around December because of very unclear government guidance on, whether we were shutting down, whether we were just continuing as normal. So personally, at Futura, we had to cancel most of our shows in December because everyone was just very worried about the Omicron variant and everything. But since then, it's been a bit quieter in the first quarter of the year, but now it's definitely picking back up, and it's going to be a very, very busy summer because I think everyone is just so tired of all the restrictions and COVID and everything, and they just want to go out, and all the audiences want to go out and have fun and come to these shows. But the problem is who is going to work at them now that we've lost a significant portion of the workforce.
Yeah, one of the big problems is that even though we're coming back, we don't have the labor. Like a lot of the people haven't worked in the industry for, I don't know, 2 years. Honestly, they haven't practiced their skills. They have been just keeping their head above the water the whole time, working in a completely different job. So it will, even if we take on the high like stand, it will be months, maybe even a year until everyone is back. How are things in Poland, Natalia?
Actually, in Poland at the beginning, it was like crazy. And the thing is that the stage technology was completely invisible for our government at the beginning. And happily, Polish people have the mentality more like, we can fix it somehow. And we have an institution called Polish Chamber of Commerce of Stage Tech, and that people actually did a really huge job to make us more visible to the government. And that's why, for example, we started to prepare some jobs, I mean more like outdoors, in summer of 2020. And another, let's say, shock was on summer 2021, but it was mostly outdoors, of course, with restrictions, of course, with the face masks and with distances between people. And yeah, it was like that. During the 2020, it was much more visible than the year after. But yeah, actually, outdoor events were happening.
Nice. And probably there will be more and more events coming up.
Yeah.
Gregory,
now it's totally good.
Gregory, do you have an overview from the other countries, or do you have an overview in Estonia? How do you feel about the industry coming back?
I don't think that I have an overview for Estonia because I'm here only for 2 weeks. And previous countries where I lived and where I worked. So I lived all my life, in fact, in Moscow. And after the COVID starts, I moved to Kiev and started working for post-production. And in fact, these 2 years, I was working mostly with post-production. And so I got back to the industry only at the end of previous year when I came back to Moscow. I don't know what will be with the industries because, Ukraine is now, there is a war there. And in Russia, I talked to my colleagues and those who work with Class A artists too. And so they have a lot of cancellations and a lot of them plan to leave the country for long-term immigration. So I don't know what to do. The situation in these countries are really bad. And I think it's even worse than COVID was. So I don't think that something good will happen. But in Russia, they canceled all the COVID restrictions, but festivals started to cancel too because foreign artists won't go there anymore. So and now I'm here in Estonia, and I'm just starting to research what the industry is here in Europe, and so I'm about to start a new career here. I was planning to do it earlier too, because it was interesting to work in different countries. And in fact, I was born in Estonia and always thought about moving here too. So now it's time to start. So something like this. And I hope that this year will be more interesting in terms of live sounds. And like Emma said, that there isn't enough people now in the industry. I think this is bad, but this is also a field of new possibilities, I think, and I hope so.
Yeah, definitely right now it's pretty crazy because COVID isn't the only bad part. A lot of the areas in the music industry have to overcome. So in Russia and Ukraine as well, there is a lot right now going on, and just economically, I think it's even a bigger toll than the COVID really was. Dear panelists, if you have anything to add to another panelist's commentary, then do so freely. It's good to discuss together. So we will go into what will happen now, as in life almost after the restrictions or the busy life that we really, really want to get back to. And some of us really haven't worked for a long time and haven't seen the industry evolve or change because of COVID. But has the industry or productions changed in a matter like, has there been changes in the planning or pre-production, or what needs to be considered that hasn't been necessary before COVID, for instance? You can go out first, Gregor. Maybe you remember something that has changed now.
I don't actually know what have changed because I'm not back in the industry for fully already. But I think that I don't know. I think that the basic principles will stay the same, and it's important to just to be respectful and be constructive with dealing different issues and some of that stuff. I think that maybe you can tell more about what is going on now in the industry, because I'm not fully back. I was working, in fact, past 3 months, I was fully booked with post-production before all this new situation starts.
True.
So I'm just about to go back
to
the live industry.
Maybe Natalia or Emma can share if there has been something that significantly in the productions, like at least the planning part, what has been like the biggest changes for you? Have you noticed anything?
Actually, in Poland, I think there are not many changes, but for example, many things changed in my mind, actually, because of the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I was working so hard. I was working a lot because I love it. And during the pandemic, I've found that I have also my own life, and I need to get enough of sleep. I need to eat well. I need to have some time for me. I need to also have some time scheduled at work. So yeah, that was the biggest thing that I see is changing during the time of COVID and now, of course. And yeah, I think actually thinking about the music industry and stage tech in Poland has changed a bit because before the pandemic we were totally invisible for people who are the audience on gigs also. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we were treated like, oh, that people are partying all the time, singing with bands and stars, going down backstage and having fun all the time. And you know that's actually not like this. Yeah, and that was changed, I think.
That's a good one. Emma, do you have anything to add?
I feel like especially for what we've been doing at Future Yard, there have been things that we needed to consider, especially during the pandemic. Last year in the summer, we had a 2-day festival booked with lots of, international artists and lots of headliners. Basically, all of them canceled because of travel restrictions or because they got COVID or something similar. So we had to replace our entire list of headliners in about a month. So that was, I feel like that still hasn't quite improved, because even though some countries are slowly loosening the restrictions and making it easier to get back to sort of normal life, there are still countries across the world which are more strict. And then it's going to make life, sorry, I keep hearing myself back for some reason. And then, yeah, that makes life difficult for booking artists and for actually planning the productions. We also, up until very recently, had a very strict COVID policy where everyone had to present a negative lateral flow test or take one in the venue if they haven't done so, regardless of vaccination status. And we've had occurrences when people would show up at the venue and test positive, and then we had to cancel the show on the day. So I feel like there's still this element of it is still to some extent present, where people, even though legally in the UK you don't have to isolate anymore if you've had COVID, but it's still very, obviously people are not gonna show up at a venue full of people if they know that they're positive. So people are still taken seriously, even though the government said that you don't really have to isolate anymore. So we still see some cancellations come as a result of this.
Actually, as Emma said, in Poland there was also like many of abroad bands, international bands are canceling, were canceling the concerts because of COVID, because of the restrictions in other countries. And another thing I see is when, for example, one of the member of the band is sick. It can be COVID, it cannot. Also, the band is mostly canceling the concert, and that's a good thing for me, because we are not spreading any sickness. Not that much as it was before, when, for example, a sick drummer was playing the concert.
And what I wanted to add here, that like Natalia said, that at the beginning of the pandemic, our industry was completely invisible for the government in many places. And in Russia and Ukraine, we have the same situation. And that was really sad, because our industry is get the most kick out of it, because we canceled. First of all, where most of the people weren't even thinking that something is wrong, but we were already canceled. And when it's time to start again, we are the last one to start again, because first of all the shops will open and cafes will open, and then at the last time the concerts will get back. And I think that if somewhere this situation changed and it was possible to reach some people who make decisions in government and tell them about, here's a huge industry that needs to be at least considered when such situation starts. I think that will be great if this will change, because this was it was not good when all this starts.
Yeah, I can add about the Sonia as well.
Gregory,
Gregory,
it's good that you're talking about that, because in Poland it was like with you, and like as you're talking, and actually I think we were the first in Europe and probably the world who started to manifest on the streets. It was on 7th July 2020.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we met in the capital city in Warsaw. It was about 150 people. It was the biggest amount we can gather because of the COVID. And we were sitting on the main square in the old town. We of course had the stage, and people were talking about our industry and things, how it happened, how it looks like, and that we need help from the government, of course. And we were sitting on the main square on flight cases with a distance 1.5 meter with each other. And it was quite silent. I mean, at the end we were hitting in a flight cases, but there were no screaming, no things like that. And thankfully to our Polish Chamber of Commerce of Stage Tech, that they are changing the law. It's very long way, very long road, but it's happening. Actually, at the beginning of the 2021, we got our first. The companies got their first money to survive from the government.
Yeah, that is very great that you did it, and I think that's a great case, and I think that we need to talk about our industry more and inform people, not only when some crisis starts, but before it, because such crises may happen in future too, and they can be even worse than this was. Because viruses are all around us and bacteria and many stuff happens. So yeah, I think that we should talk more and explain how our industry works to generally to the society and especially to those people who make decisions there in the government. I think it's really important.
By the way, aren't you afraid that like in the start of pandemic, all the industry did was to emphasize themselves. All we did was to go on rallies, to speak with the government, and we kind of made it to the point of where we were heard by the government. We were getting financial aid. Industry was all of a sudden like on the map. And as you said, Natalia, before, that you understood that you needed time to rest, you needed to not overwork. The mental health is also important. But now that we are getting back on the same spin, on the same speed, are we really, what do you think? Are we really going to do all of the things that we promised during pandemic that we should do, that we have done? Can we upkeep with it? What do you guys think?
Actually, I think it will not change if our personal mind is not changing. So I think this is the most important thing. For example, I changed some of my conditions about work. I changed that I need to have some time for rest. I need to have a warm meal, for example, and I don't do more than one job per day, because I was working, for example, in the morning during some for example broadcast or things like that, and the evening I'm in the concert. And I decided that I don't want to work like that. And I think if everybody, in our own, can decide for our boundaries, actually, then things can start changing. Can start to change.
This was such an interesting feeling came to me when you said that you had a day when you have broadcasting in the morning and a concert in the evening, and I immediately thought, oh, how I want a day like this.
It's not healthy. Don't try it.
I know that it is not healthy, but I will be so excited if I would have even one day like this.
You have a lot of adrenaline there, and after, for example, you are coming back to your home at, for example, midnight, and you can't go to sleep even if you are totally exhausted, because you are too exhausted. So it's not good.
I agree with that. We should take care more about our physical and mental health, and it will be hard for many people, I think, because changing behaviors is really hard in general. But for me personally, I can tell that I have changed my working behaviors and my work-life balance because the COVID showed for me too that that work-life balance should be better than it was sometimes.
Emma?
Actually, I think we are going back to the normality, but some days ago I heard a saying that it shouldn't be any going back to normality, because the normality wasn't good.
That's true.
Yeah, I keep seeing that as well, and like a lot of groups on Facebook who are looking for a touring crew or for people to cover different shows. I keep seeing the day rates actually go down, or people be expected to do front of house, tour manage, and drive for a fee that you wouldn't even pay to do front of house to begin with. So people are always going to try and push it, but I feel like now, compared to before the pandemic, a lot of people will mention in the comments saying this is a joke. You can't pay people this little for 3 jobs. If you really don't have the budget, then just cut one of the jobs and just use in-house front of house engineers. And it's just about what we really allow people to do. If there's always going to be someone who jumps on that role and who does those 3 jobs for a very, very small fee, then things are probably less likely to change. But if we really put our foot down and demand to be treated properly, then people won't be able to get away with things like that. A lot of people keep comparing this to, if you get a plumber to fix something in your house, you won't negotiate about their fee with them. Yeah. And it's the same kind of scenario with sound engineers. You shouldn't really be trying to cut down on, you know, how much like they have their day fee and you're asking them to do a job for you. So yeah, just all a matter of perspective and I suppose what we agree to.
I hope that the industry can really this time stick to the agreements all made during the pandemic. We need to communicate more, we need to collaborate more, we need to stick together, we need to put our foot down, and we need to really do it as clearly as possible. We can't go back to the industry that was happening before. I mean, we can change the business model. As you can see, the business model doesn't work if we have a pandemic. It's all down in the ruins. Maybe we can't change that. Maybe online concerts won't be the exact substitution here, and probably won't. But as a community all around the globe, we really, really need to take this kind of a view on this matter. But going back to the productions, now that people are coming back and they need to somehow get back to work, and maybe they are lucky to get a job after all of those 2 years. Just imagine 2 years you haven't gone near to a mixing board. Maybe you can look at it from far away and you're like, wow, I used to work with this thing. So what really are some of the problems in productions, in venue communication that we should try to avoid? What is good communication between the venue and the artist or the touring manager? What are the basic things that we should remember now back and not make these mistakes on our maybe first days back at job? Emma, do you have anything to add?
I think, as cliche as it may sound, I think communication is the thing that we need to keep up with. If there is a problem, if there is, to start the advancing process early enough, not a few days before the show when there's no way of fixing anything if needs be, and just be as open and as informed about things as possible. You know, both sides really need to work together. They need to provide the other side with the relevant and important information that they need, that everyone needs to do their job, you know, whether it comes to tech specs, whether it comes to hospitality riders, travel arrangements, accommodation, all of that, just communicate it clearly, because then we can start a discussion about it, start a conversation and make things work. But if people don't communicate and then show up and there were a lot of things that they asked for, but they never actually asked for them, they just expected them to be provided, then that's where all the problems happen. So for me personally, it's you know, a lot of things can be achieved and a lot of things can happen, but we just need to communicate about it and make everyone aware of what is possible and what is not possible, and try to work out a compromise that works for both sides.
Got it. Natalia?
Actually, I think we need to take care of our bases, our personal bases. We really need to provide the place to sleep for the worker, for example, because before the pandemic it was not so common and not so obvious, and some of the people are providing trying to provide a place to sleep for example, the boss of the company where, for example, sound engineers and other people works. He provided the, for example, hotel, but it was not so obvious. And again, we need to take care of the people. We need to take care of the people, of the actually of their feeling good in place and with themselves, to be fresh and just feeling good. Yeah. And again, we actually in Poland before the pandemic, it was quite common to demand in riders some equipment which was not so common. And sometimes when bands came and the sound engineer started his or her work, and actually the organizer of the event realized that equipment wasn't necessary. So I think we need to think also about that. For example, if you can, with, let's say, no problem, do the concert with less equipment, with a not so, let's say, good and not so on the top. I mean, the equipment. We need to talk about it also, as Emma said. It is not. Actually, sometimes we don't need super top quality of the microphones, for example, because we can use, of course, also SM58, and it'll be also good. So I think that this is not the, I don't know how to say. Sometimes, of course, it was also on the other side, on the opposite. That, for example, the sound engineer came at the place of the event, and, for example, there were nothing of the equipment in Rider, and it was a huge problem because, for example, I make a snare drum mostly with a condenser microphone because I like, and because I need to in some cases. And for example, on the venue, it was only the it was only the, for example, regular SM57, and I had a problem. So we need to talk about the equipment also, and actually it needs to. Actually, we need to be. We need to talk about it on both sides. I mean, it is good to not demand only the top of the devices, and we need to remember that some of the top devices are necessary.
And put budget, if you can, that you have left over. Don't have like top quality equipment and the top quality show, but think about the people also when you're either on the concert organizer side or you're in the touring side, so people would have a place to sleep. They wouldn't have to sleep in a car like all the time. Yeah. Maybe sometimes the top equipment isn't like that necessary. Sometimes you need money just to be fresh, just to be ready. Great. Gregory, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and I think that this is this can be achieved by again telling people, like using our social networks, for example, to provide all this information. That sometimes it's better maybe to spend money and to provide a place to sleep for technical personnel than ordering, for example, some expensive equipment, and this will be more efficient because sound engineer with fresh ears is this is better than like expensive microphone. So yeah, I think that we need to provide it at least for people who we ourselves work with. So if every one of us will provide it, I don't know, for 5 artists that we know and maybe whom we worked with, then it's like all the circles that will merge and everything will get better. Because so we need to spread this knowledge, because artists sometimes don't think about it. So I think that we have to do some education, some broadcasting information for people about
First
it.
the people, then the rest.
Yeah, a new movement just started from this panel, I can see, which is a really, really good thing to remember. And I think it's a very wise thing to remember, especially if tour managers are doing their budgeting and they don't have enough funds for everything. Then self-care is something to look out more the best. As a last question, let's do a round, and I would really like you to think about what is the prognosis of the live industry for the next year and what is going to happen in the near future. So where are we going? Is COVID maybe coming back and everything is going to be doomed again, or everything is going to get busy and we have new and better communication processes? We aren't going back to the same way how we used to work, and we will have more innovation. So Emma, you can start.
This is a very difficult question. I think personally that it won't just be linear in terms of everything going up and never stopping. I think there will still be some bumps along the road and some ups and downs throughout the next year and the next following years, because obviously everyone took a massive hit with COVID and people are still trying to recover from this. I mean, the companies and the people who have managed to keep a business or a job in the industry. So I feel like it will take some time for people to recover, even if things go smoothly. But I am hoping that in the future, as we were talking about this whole panel, that things will change, that the work conditions will be improved because of the pandemic and because of everyone having to take a step back and take a look at what is going on. I mean, obviously that will depend mainly on us and what we do with it and what we demand, and also what companies offer, or what either production companies or whoever it is you may be working with, venues, managers, whoever. But I do think that there is definitely a lot of scope for improvement still, and I hope that we will continue the fights and continue to make our industry visible, because in the end, if we do our job properly, no one sees us. That's kind of the point of what we do. So it is very natural for people to not see us and not see what we do and not be aware of it. So I really do like this about how we responded to the pandemic, that wherever it was, many countries around Europe and around the world started, the production companies and the people who work in live events started to speak up, started to demand that they are seen and that people know what they do and that they're valuable to the industry, and that there wouldn't really be an industry without us. So I think that is a really, really positive outcome, and I hope that we can keep up this work and continue making ourselves visible in that sense, and while staying invisible while we work.
Good one. Natalia?
Actually, I think can be October, it can be September, probably October. In Poland, we like, oh no, we've got another wave of COVID. Again, a lot of people are going to hospitals and things like that. So we need to put some restrictions again. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I think it can be a bit like that. And I hope that it won't be like, for example, many clubs I'll be closed again. I hope it will be not like that. And again, I really would like to think, and actually I think it is really important to be visible for the government also. And what we can do to be visible, for example, is also to work in a visible way. For example, showing our work in the internet, for example, showing, for example, our work to society. We can also work legally, because it wasn't so obvious in Poland before the COVID. And now I think it's changed, maybe not 100%, but it's changed. So I think this is a good way to be visible, and to also to have, for example, some options to get some money when we'll have another crisis, for example. And yeah.
Gregory, your thoughts?
So it is hard to do forecasts, I think, in this situation. And the fact that we now have another situation going in Europe that is maybe even worse than it was. So it's hard to do prognosis, but it definitely depends on us, on the people who works in the industry. And the good thing that, in fact, we are not as huge industry as like some other industries, and we have more, I think, ability to communicate and to communicate with people who like who have more impact maybe than a regular sound engineer, to say. But yeah, it's hard to forecast, but we need to, well, like you said, we need to talk more about ourselves, about our work, don't be invisible, and I think that's a key point. And as I said, educate more people how this works, educate our colleagues, and hope that there won't be such big crisis in the future. But what I personally, for me, what I understood after the pandemic is that it is good to have, if you're a freelancer, if you don't work in some big company or venue, if you're a freelancer like I was, it's good to have different sources of income. So. And for me personally, but this is also really interesting. I like doing I like doing live shows. I like doing studio stuff. I like doing some sound design, and I think this is great. So when the situation is unstable, it's great to have another sort of income, or maybe some money that you earned when things were good. So yeah,
that's why I started to work in post-production also. And another thing is that some musicians in Poland are helping us to be more visible. For example, one of the Polish famous singer, Cortez, recorded a film of the whole preparing of concert and things like that, and it's on internet. And yeah, a lot of things like setting the equipment and preparing the concert and taking everything down and back to the car after the show. And another thing which was happening during some concerts was. It was like, for example, the band is playing, everything is cheering, people are happy, and for a short, for example, for a short moment, and it was like all the lights are totally down, everything was dark, and there was only silence. And after, for example, half in a minute, things like that. For example, the singer was saying like that it would look like without the sound and light equipment, without that people from the industry.
So, this is super cool. This is like this is a powerful impact, I think it had. Just to show people what it is like without us.
Yeah,
that's a great case.
Well, thank you, Gregory, Emma, and Natalia. We could call you invisible workers, but I hope that the industry can get to the point and can stick to the point that the industry isn't that invisible anymore, that people acknowledge how much they missed live concerts. Like everyone, you don't have to work in the industry to know this feeling of going out and seeing a performance. And I hope that this time really sticks with people. And I hope that people do remember what they promised, and everyone in and outside of the industry really stick to it and do not get full gear on, full speed on to working as they worked before. Thank you so much. This is the end of panel number 3.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.